I'm writing this because I need someone else to tell me I'm not crazy. I moved into my apartment 8 months ago, third floor, corner unit. I picked it because it was quiet and the building felt anonymous, the kind of place where people keep to themselves. That's all I wanted. Anonymous and quiet. My neighbor across the hall, Unit 304, is neither of those things. His name is Ryben. I know this because he introduced himself the day I moved in, which, fine, normal. He helped me carry a box inside without asking if I wanted help, which felt slightly off, but I told myself he was just being friendly. He's maybe 50, average everything, height, build, face, the kind of person you'd walk past 100 times and never remember. The first thing that bothered me was small. About 2 weeks after I moved in, I ran into him by the mailboxes, and he asked how I was settling in. I said fine. He said, good, good. You getting enough sleep? Heard you up pretty late a few nights ago. I laughed it off. Thin walls. Whatever. But I'm a quiet person. I don't watch TV loud. I don't have people over. If he could hear me, it was because he was listening for me. I told myself I was overthinking it. A month later, I came back from the grocery store, and he was in the hallway. He looked at my bags and said, "Oh, you found that new place on Northwood Avenue? Good prices, right?" I had gone to that grocery store for the first time that day. I had never mentioned it to him. I have had maybe 6 conversations with this man total, and none of them were about where I shop. I said, "Yeah, great prices," and went inside and stood in my kitchen for a long time. I started paying attention after that. He knows my schedule, not in a way I can prove, but in a way I feel every time I run into him, which is too often, at times that are too specific. He's always just arriving or just leaving when I am. He knows I work from home on Fridays. He knows I order food on Tuesday nights. He mentioned once, casually, that he'd seen me on my work calls. You always look so focused, which means at some point he's seen me through my window, because I never told him I worked from home at all. I started keeping my blinds down. Last week was when it stopped feeling like coincidence. I was in the laundry room in the basement, and he came in, which is fine. People do laundry. We made small talk. He asked if I'd heard from my sister lately. I have never mentioned my sister to him. I have never mentioned any family to him. I asked him what he meant. He smiled. The same easy, unbothered smile he always has. Said he thought he remembered me mentioning her once. Said never mind, he must be mixing me up with someone else. I said okay. I finished my laundry. I came upstairs. I checked my door when I got back. Locked. Deadbolt. Chain. I've been thinking about it for 6 days. And I cannot remember a single conversation where I mentioned my sister. I cannot explain how he knows I have one. There's a woman I've seen coming and going from his apartment maybe once a month. Youngish, dark coat, always looks tired. I assumed girlfriend. I smiled at her once in the elevator and she didn't smile back. Just looked at me with this flat expression, like she was somewhere else entirely. I haven't seen her in about 6 weeks. I don't know if that means anything. I don't know if any of this means anything. But this morning, I was leaving for a coffee run and Ryben was in the hallway. He looked at me and said, "You look tired. Didn't sleep well." I slept fine. I looked fine. I had not said a word to him. He just smiled and went back inside his apartment. I stood in the hallway alone for a second before I walked to the elevator. And I don't know why I did this, but I looked back at his door. The peephole went dark. He was watching me leave. I'll update when I can. HO315 2005 T10 2005 TFT. What's your status? 10T25 PM. Aiden Ajaxo. Best day ever. 10T1046 PM. Comment. Kmatash863. Yo, tell me what goes through your head. 10T50 PM. Reply. Aiden Ajaxo. Nothing. AT36TT1050. What's your status? AT1033 PM. Aiden Ajaxo. Great day at the library. E-reading 12,001 AM. Comment. Kmatash8C63. 12,019 AM. Reply. Aiden Ajaxo. Yes. 12,001 AM. Comment. Kmetish863. You don't need them. 12,032 AM. Comment. Kmetish863. Where do you live? 12,004 a.m. Reply, Adnajakso, 1040 a.m. Comment, Kometish, 863, just tell me. Add 03, 16, 17, 25. What's your status? 10,055 p.m. Adzinajakso, long hair, don't carry yo-yolo. 10:56 p.m. 12,001 a.m. Comment, Kometish, 863. Are you all by yourself? 1 ATM. Reply, Adine Hopso, 178 a.m. Comment, Kometish, 863. Do not talk to them anymore. I'm all you need. 179 a.m. Comment, Kometish, 863. Spill your guts. 20 a.m. Reply, Adine Hopso, I don't know you. 17 a.m. Comment, Kometish, 863. I won't share a thing you tell me. You can trust me. Gem 03 70 15 70 15. What's your status? What's your status? 30 a.m. Aiden. Hey. 1032 a.m. Comment, Kemitash 863. Don't ignore me. You don't have friends, you fucking loser. 1032 a.m. Comment, Kemitash 863. I am all you have, bitch. 1033 a.m. Reply, Adine Hoxo. Please stop. Esin03 Tree 2036. What's your status? Esin 2036 a.m. Adine Hoxo, 911. Scared. I need help. 2038 a.m. Comment, Kemitash 863. You better talk to 25 a.m. Reply, Adine Hoxo. What? 25 a.m. Reply, Kmetish 863 I am. Here. 25 a.m. Kmetish 863. Don't be rude. Answer the fucking door. 25 2 a.m. Reply, Adine Hoxo. I'm going to call the police. 25 a.m. Reply, Kmetish 8 a.m. Reply, Kmetish 863. No, you won't. ETO3 2TO60 D2 and a 50. What's your status? AT3am mean. Nasuedo 19A2. My daughter Adina is missing. She's 22 years old, brown shoulder-length hair with green eyes. Nasuedo 19A2. Aden, if you're out there, baby, please come home. We love you so much. Elias had been in our family since I was a little kid. I remember being 5 years old, grasping the bell jar between my fingers and pressing my face against the glass. It was never cold, always warm, light, like holding a feather. Elias was a tiny boy with hair as brown and tangled as mine, threaded with flowers and poison ivy. Wings as delicate as paper stretched from his tiny back, always taking my breath away, glistening like raindrops. I found him sitting in a bell jar on my mother's desk. What is he? I whispered excitedly. His name is Elias. Mom gently took the bell jar from me and placed it back on her desk. The fairy was trying and failing to stand up, falling onto his knees, his wings fluttering. Do not remove the lid, Clara. Mom's voice hummed into my hair, fingers comforting as they stroked through my ponytail. I couldn't take my eyes off the fairy, who gave up, burying his head in his arms. Do you understand me? I pulled away, a lump in my throat. But why is Elias in the jar? I asked. Mom chuckled, grabbed the bell jar, and shook it. Elias's mouth parted in a silent O. See? Mom smiled and dumped the jar in the drawer. He's singing, Clara. Now, go and play. Growing up, I grew more curious about the fairy on my mother's desk. When I was 10 years old, I was homesick from school. Elias wasn't on her desk anymore. I found him shoved in one of her filing cabinets, trapped between dog-eared copies of files with names that were too long for me to understand. I grabbed the bell jar and held it up, swiping dust from the glass. Elias's face popped into view. He was older, my age, but still itty-bitty sized. As usual, his piercing eyes were slitted. I pretended not to see tears in his eyes and his bloodied fists. Where were you? He mouthed, gesturing wildly. I offered him a smile. Sorry. Mom gets mad when I talk to you. I balanced him on my hand, swiping excess dust from the lid. He'd grown noticeably thinner over the years, his eyes bugging out. I couldn't resist tracing my finger down the frosted glass, trailing his long hair now tangled and knotted in his wings. I wanted to give him a haircut. I pulled out my small craft scissors, and the fairy's eyes almost popped out of his head. No. He stumbled back and fell straight onto his butt, scrambling backwards. I laughed, waving the scissors. "Come on, you need a haircut, Clara," he mouthed, pointing to his hair. "You wouldn't dares." "Elias," I couldn't resist asking as I lay on my mom's rug, the jar delicately balanced in my hand. The fairy sat cross-legged inside, his chin resting on his fist. For the first time, I felt comfortable with him. He was even smiling. "Why does my mom want you in a jar?" Elias's smile withered away. Slowly, he rose to his feet, then traced a single word into the condensation coating the glass. "Prisoner." "Clara?" Mom's voice startled me. I dived to my feet. "I'll get you out," I promised him, hiding him on the shelf. "Clara, what are you doing in there?" Mom caught me, crouched, trying to slot Elias back into the cabinet. She changed the lock code so I couldn't get back in. I was 17 when Mom randomly asked me to grab her laptop and absently gave me the code. I never forgot about Elias. I was ecstatic, keying in the code and pulling the door open. "Elias," I hissed, grabbing a chair and standing on it, searching her bookcase, then the filing cabinet. I checked her drawers, then, biting my lip, her closet. And there it was, the bell jar, stuffed right at the back. I didn't think twice. I grabbed it, almost dropping it. It was so... a cold. Thick layers of filth and dust coated the glass. I could see a grown Elias, his wings expanding in the jar. There was something wrapped around him, cruel vines pinning him down. Mom had restrained him. I took a deep breath, wrapped my fingers around the lid, and pulled it off. I reached inside, pulling the vines apart and freeing his tiny body. At first, nothing happened. Elias didn't move. I peered inside, only for an explosion of loud, fluttering wings. He flew from the jar, disappearing out the door. I followed him, my stomach twisting. "Ah, Mom?" I yelled, trying to capture him again. But Elias was fast. I stopped when I reached the solarium. Mom was gone, a pile of shredded clothes and bones on the floor. I stumbled back, already crying out for my brother. "Liam! Clara?" I found Liam in the hallway, staring at me with wide eyes. But then he melted. His skin began to drip from his bones, his eyes popping from his sockets with a sickening squelching sound. When my brother hit the ground, his skull dissolving into the carpet, I knew what I had to do. Elias. Grabbing a mesh net, I snatched him from the air, my eyes stinging. I dropped him onto the ground, ignoring his tiny, buzzing screams. I stamped on him. Once. His screams exploded into raw cries. Twice. Blood splattered the stone. I raised my shoe, about to finish him, when he startled me with a laugh. My hands were beginning to fall apart, my bones coming apart underneath the skin. Fuck. Picking him up, I straightened his wings, swiping at his bloody mouth. Elias's grin was wild. Feral. He spat blood in my face. "Bitch," he broke into hysterical giggles. "Your mom's been using me to keep your family alive." "Kill me?" His smile widened. "You died too." He folded his arms. Elias was in charge now, so let's play Maya's fucking game. Lyra Vance didn't want to be a star, even before the pressure of her auditions or the weight of responsibility that came with them, before the endless hours of practice and rehearsals that dominated her childhood, before the countless stories of how incredible her mother was on stage or how tragic her fall from grace was. Long before seeing how demanding, how cruel, her mother could truly be when she was defied. Lyra didn't know what she wanted, but to be fair, she'd never been asked. After all, she was the Steth. Alna Vance's daughter. She was Lyra. Shining was her birthright. Perhaps this was the first time Lyra considered it, alone in the gallery leading to the pavilion, her father, the musical director, and the spotlight waiting eagerly for her. She stared vaguely in the direction of the double doors to the stage, past the other girls and their attentive parents, letting muscle memory guide her stretches while her mind wandered aimlessly. Her eyes began to wander as well, to the other end of the gallery, to the garden. "I don't want to be here," she thought, immediately tensing up as though expecting to be struck. Her hands were balled up, she realized, unballing them with some effort. Finally, as her electric fear turned to a sort of anxious excitement, she dared to think something dangerous again. It's not like Mother can make me do this anymore. She's dead. Oh, that one was wicked. Alna had a sixth sense for that sort of thing, for her daughter thinking such seditious thoughts. More than once, Lyra had been walloped for the high crime of letting something unsanctioned by her mother divert her attention. The mere notion of not doing exactly what Alna wanted was terrifying, but as more horrible thoughts began to creep through, Father might let me quit. I'm a teenager, and I don't even like dancing. Lyra began to smile. The smile faded when Lyra's name was called. A self-serious woman with a clipboard near the double doors began to approach her, and while she knew that she didn't want to audition anymore, the best Lyra could muster on short notice was an excuse. I need to touch up my makeup, she lied. Can someone go before me? The woman checked her clipboard, then nodded before calling another girl's name. Lyra thanked her before retreating into a nearby powder room. Thankfully, the room was empty. Lyra collapsed into a seat before the vanity, letting out a long, shaky breath she didn't know she was holding. Okay, she whispered, eyes shut, trying to will the tension away. After taking a few slow, steady breaths, a method she realized with some guilt that her mother had taught her, Lyra finally allowed herself to say it out loud. I never wanted to do this, she said to the empty room. It was little more than a whisper, but still progress. Mother made me do this, but she's gone, and I don't have to anymore. I'll just leave. The fuck you will. With the start, Lyra opened her eyes. Alna Vance was standing behind her, an icy blue glare, a cold fury that met her reflection. She turned around, and no one was there, but as Lyra faced the vanity mirror again, Alna was standing behind her. Mother, but... No buts, Alna said, looking down at her daughter's reflection with disgust. I always knew you were weak, but this is a new low. A good daughter would have redoubled her efforts in the wake of her mother's untimely passing, but here you are, running away from your future the first chance you got. I'm rolling in my freshly filled grave, Lyra. Is that what you want? No, Lyra denied, covering her eyes with her hands. After all the work I put into you. What a waste. Lyra felt an intense cold wrap around her wrists and pull her hands from her face. An odd sensation, but she knew the shape of her mother's hands well, so she didn't fight it. She looked back at the vanity, back to Alna. You could have been great. I never wanted to be great, Lyra confessed. She felt the grips on her wrists tighten, but she continued, defiant despite all. This was always about you. Her mother let go of her, taking a step back. A brief flash of confusion quickly gave way to sadness. Alna's eyes softened. You think me so cliché? The bitter old woman trying to relive her glory days through her progeny. I wanted the world for you, and I knew I could show you how to take it. My way, yes, but that was all I could teach you. I never wanted you to be me. I wanted you to outdo me, Lyra. To outshine me, Lyra. To outshine me. Ever since you were born. I'm sorry, Mother, Lyra whispered back. She had been hurt by her mother's death, at the suddenness of it all, but hadn't shed a tear for Alna until that moment. I'm so sorry. A cold, invisible thumb brushed her tear away. It's all right, Lyra, Alna cooed gently. I just need you to tell me one thing, okay? Full honesty. Do you want to quit? Lyra nodded, feeling her mother's ethereal hands rest on her shoulders. Yes, she admitted, closing her eyes. I'm sorry, Mother. The grip on her shoulders tightened. You were always so disappointing, her mother muttered, and a wave of cold began to envelop her from behind. Lyra's eyes opened only briefly, long enough to see her mother's reflection envelop her own. She closed her eyes, and Alna opened them. She checked her new reflection in the mirror, happy that her daughter hadn't smudged anything too badly, and quickly touched up before heading back out into the gallery. I'm ready now, thank you, she informed the woman with the clipboard. There was no guilt, no regret, only anticipation. She was alive again, and the spotlight was hers for the taking. Elena was a writer who decided not to study creative writing and instead get out in the real world, like the beats. She worked a day shift in a restaurant and a night shift in a bar. She kept an order pad in her apron, scrawled with observations, gestures people had made while demanding a martini, and snippets of dialogue she would put into the mouths of her characters. Her boss said she was a diligent employee, and she was, but she had learned to make it seem as if her feet were on the ground while her head was in the clouds. She encountered him, walking home from her shift at 2 a.m. Like Edward Hopper, she looked around the darkened city for nighthawks and was unlucky enough to find a bird of prey. "Valen Deedon," he said, extending a hand as a distraction before swinging the truncheon with the other. She saw an eye staring at her through a peephole at the top of the cellar stairs, a cold eye, almost like a shark's. She had no pen or paper, but she did have a 1-gallon bucket of water, and in the water, as she awaited the inevitable, she wrote, "As an expert in water management, Valen Deedon knew he had an advantage when disposing of a corpse. After all, the body was 60% H2O. The mistake an earlier killer made was allowing the small bones to collect in the drainage system, causing a backup. Valen was the water guy, and no such error would occur. He worked the lead on the Obsidian Basin plant because investors seemed to warm to his glib, superficial charm. It was a local scenic beauty spot, a place Valen often sneaked around at night, spying on young couples in cars. Someone on the PR team had set out a bottle of champagne for the dignitaries to pose with. "You're not having a glass," Counselor Henderson said. "Oh, I only drink water," Valen replied, holding up a bottle of spring water. In the distance, the rugged valley hills rolled away to the horizon. The sun was setting, casting the lake's surface in a red-orange glow. "3 cheers for Valen," another dignitary said. "Our hydro guru." Suddenly, they turned en masse to the lake. The water was rippling. "An earthquake," Counselor Henderson said. "Impossible." "Perhaps nature is going to part the waves," Henderson joked. Nobody laughed. The waves began to break and fold into one another, and then from the maelstrom, perfect coherence formed. The sun had set even further, and now the water was blood red, written the entire breadth of the lake, repeating millions and billions of times in the glassy surface, was a message. Elena's masterpiece. Valena's masterpiece. Valen Deedon is a murderer. Lord, please, if you're real, if you're actually out there, all-knowing and omnipotent, then please, please forgive me for what I've done. I don't even feel right reciting this prayer to you. I feel like I have decimated your image, your conviction. It was meaningless to me. Even so, you must understand, my Lord. You took him from me. You snatched him away from my arms before I could even give him the life you granted him by planting him in my wife's womb. All the wealth, all the acclaim, it was meaningless without him. Part of me wants to curse you in this prayer, the very prayer in which I beg for your forgiveness. When the scientists of my company reached out, it was with the best of intentions. They felt the grief. They understood the pain. And so I'm begging you today, please, do the same. They called it the replacement study, a revolutionary program centered around their latest project, a machine that rebuilt the deceased piece by piece, a new God here on earth, amongst us. We didn't create a God. We defied you, defied the natural order you implemented. They had been testing the machine for years, tweaking the mechanics and technology. And what did those endless years bring us? Nothing but failure. They were just so confident, so sure of themselves, that they could achieve humanity's greatest feat. And maybe that's where destiny clashes with that stubborn will of yours. Because through those thousands of lab rat carcasses, only one came back. Was it us, or was it you? Did you bless us with a miracle, or did we take one by force? The scientists were ecstatic to inform me of their breakthrough. Oh, but you know what happened then, right? You did cause it after all. How does a 7-year-old boy have a heart attack, Lord? Healthy as can be 1 minute, dead on the ground the next. It was punishment, wasn't it, for trying to help people? For wanting to mend broken hearts, grief-stricken minds. You had to teach me a lesson on who is truly in control, didn't you? Oh, but you were too late. We had figured you out. We learned you, worshipped you to the point of mimicry. It was 3 agonizing months of mourning, but you knew that one too. 3 months. That's all it took for my mind to snap. When I returned to the labs in Valerius, there were dozens of rats, each one brought back, each one perfectly healthy and functional. So why did he come back different, Lord? Can you answer my question for once? Why does my son Alaric not remember me? Why can he not speak? Why can he not see? Why is my son a fucking vegetable god? The scientists scanned him. Almost perfect brain activity. You made him aware, God. He knows what he is. You trapped him. And for what? To punish me. To make me end the study. I beg for your forgiveness, Lord. I beg for you to return my son. But if begging fails, my scientists will not. No matter what it takes. I used to dream of absolute silence. I hated the low, steady hum of the air conditioning, the distant traffic, and the ambient noise of the refrigerator cycling in the kitchen. I thought it was a nuisance. Layers of infrastructural white noise blocking out my peace. Then, in a single, unexplainable second, the grid died. No sparks, no explosions. Just a seamless transition to total darkness. At first, the silence was beautiful, but then it became heavy. It started to exert a physical pressure against my eardrums, like being deep underwater. That's when I heard the first whisper. It wasn't a sound coming through the air. It was being injected directly into my central nervous system. Listen. Focus. Stay still. My body locked into an unnatural, stiff posture. I couldn't even blink. Through the darkness of the study, I heard Arthur open his mouth and murmur the same 3 words in perfect synchronization with the voice in my head. I realize now that our noisy, chaotic digital lives were never a distraction. The static was a shield. We were terraforming our own atmosphere with garbage data, just to keep the pathway to our minds jammed. The static was our armor. And now that the world is quiet, the armor is gone. A little boy blue, come blow your horn. Osh, the sheep's in the meadow, the cows in the corn. Esther, where's the boy who is dressed all in blue? He's counting the days, he's hiding from you. Is he in the meadow, or under the bed? Or under the bed. Oster, 10 days he's gone missing, oh, whence has he fled? They'll find him beside you, stone, cold, dead. Esther, stone, cold, dead. Little boy blue. https www.reddit comments are nosebleed comments. Docsleep comments. 1ww There's a cursed doll that plays hide and seek you. It was found with an old nursery rhyme scrawled on yellowed paper tucked into its checked blue gown. Ever since the doll was sold at an auction in 2002, fatal misfortune has struck each of its owners. A woman named Franca died by a fall. A collector named Gatiasno by a car crash. And most tragic of all, a 4-year-old died by drowning in the family pool. In each case, the doll went missing for 10 days before the fatal accident occurred and was found beside the corpse. But were these deaths the result of a curse or coincidence? The doll's newest owner, Ohet, bought it online under the assumption that it was just a hokey bit of paranormal paraphernalia to share at a party. Even when the doll disappeared from its locked case, he assumed one of his fellow partygoers had pranked him. But as the days ticked by, his dismissal turned to concern. He realized from cameras that no intruders entered or left his home during the hours of the doll's disappearance. Furthermore, the only key to the glass case remained in his pocket at all times. Finally, he called me, Sajak, a paranormal investigator, to help find the doll. Return it to its case. But time is running out. He hired me on day 9s. Tomorrow, he dies on day 10. Tomorrow, he dies on day 10. I trace my hands along the exterior, and the laminated warning taped to the front crinkles under my fingers. Do not open the case. Do not touch the duel. Always keep the duel on camera. Ohet, hovering over my shoulder, looks exactly like the sort of dude who dies first in a horror movie. Which sounds harsh until you hear him boast. Stuff like, "Bring it, Lil BB, and let's see how you like a taste of this genuine samurai sword." For context, he's a white guy, gripping the two-handed sword in one hand like an anime character, and with every tortuously mispronounced word, I'm trained in the way of ba, shido. I find myself rooting harder for the doll. I should probably stop judging, though his pronunciation is bull shit do, and what he's actually saying translates to, I'm trained in the way of the warrior. I grew up speaking Japanese, badly, as the son of an immigrant, but not as badly as Ohet. The kid's only 23 though, and it's not as if my 20s weren't cringe. Pretty sure I even posted a samurai pic on my old Insta, under the classy handle, C-Jack King of Forever. In any case, the lock hasn't been picked. The door can't be jangled loose. I trace my fingers along the frame and say, either it magically popped open, or someone unlocked it, like I said. Ohet finishes. I nod. I knew it, that chucklefuck Veast and his pranks. I's not Veast. Ohet blinks wide green eyes at me, and he looks like one of those photos you'd see on a milk carton way back when, or a web page that at second glance you realize is an obituary. There's just an aura of tragedy. And while the glass case is devoid of any supernatural energies, Ohet here practically radiates bad mojo. He's swimming before my eyes, hard to see through the vertigo. Who? He repeats. Who took Lil BB? You got any ideas? One, I say. And that is... Use opened the locked case. Perned, Ashta locked. Perned, Ohet. Both opened the case with his own key and is destined to die by his own hand, and perhaps by his own samurai sword. His haunting has all the hallmarks of possession. The doll likely puts its victims into a trance, during which they hide Little Boy Blue. From there, everything unfolds as in the rhyme. 10 days pass. Little Boy Blue cannot be found. On the 10th day, the victim, again in a trance, retrieves it from the place they've hidden it, and under its influence, an old woman falls from a ladder, a collector crashes his car, a little girl jumps into a pool, and Little Boy Blue is found beside them, their bodies stone cold dead. Just as Ohet will be, unless I can come up with a brilliant plan to save him. SGZ. Unfortunately, I have only a mediocre plan. My plan is to get Ohet as far as possible from wherever he's hidden the doll and hold him hostage while waiting out his 10th day. Meanwhile, my smarter and better half, Amy, will take the lead in finding the killer doll. In the pre-dawn gray of morning, Ohet and I cruise for miles and miles, pausing only to grab supplies at a store, before continuing to a secluded coastal cottage perched on a cliff amid jagged rocks and endless gray surf. While the cottage itself is rather industrial looking, with a steel roof and cinder block walls, the interior is cleanly furnished with a futon, a small table set, a kitchenette, and, crucially, some pretty solid chairs. Bed or chair? I ask him. Chair. You sure? He plops himself down in one of the hard back table chairs, and I hold out a package of adult incontinence pads. When he glowers, I remind him that he will be my hostage for 24 hours, and the bathroom is statistically the second most dangerous room in the house, with one American dying in there on average every day. If I untie you to take a piss, you could wash your hands, water splashes on the floor. Oops, slip, fall, dead E. Joke's on you, my guy. I never wash my hands. Okay, buddy, I say. I use buddy like a bouncer as I give him some relevant context. You are going to die. Not maybe. Not probably was. You are going to die the way a man who has jumped out of a plane without a parachute is going to die. My plan? The plan to save your life? That's your parachute. And every deviation from that plan is you cutting the fucking strings. So you're going to put on that pad, sit in that chair, and quit giving me crap. Unless it's in the pad, because that's what it's there for. Fucking unreal, he mutters. But he takes the pads, and after a few minutes emerges from the bathroom with the plastic crinkling under his sweatpants. And for all his bluster, it's the moment I realize how scared he truly is. Bad news, Cac, Emmy says over the phone. She finally received a call back from the archive of arcane artifacts the occult museum that originally owned Little Boy Blue. The museum's director admitted that the doll was advertised online to garner attention, but that others' vintage dolls from the museum's collection were to be sent to buyers. An uninformed staff member shipped Little Boy Blue to Ohet by mistake. Unfortunately, the museum's director could offer no solutions or new information beyond what we already know. Everything they have on the doll is from the notes of the collector Gatias Noen, who passed away in a car crash caused by Little Boy Blue 20 years ago. With the archive unable to assist, AME's been looking into famous dolls like Annabelle and lesser-known ones like Okiku, said to be possessed by the ghost of a teen girl and have continuously growing hair, as well as esoteric rituals and practices centering dolls. The problem, she tells me, is that we don't know whether Little Boy Blue is haunted, like Annabelle and Okiku, or cursed, as with witchcraft or voodoo. What does it matter, I ask. Haunted or hexed, isn't it all just flavor text? And no, you're not listening. My fear is the doll is less like Chucky, more like a monkey's paw. Like maybe it attracts misfortune, which might mean everything you're doing, all these measures to prevent Ohet's death, might actually wind up causing him to die. Shit. I think about what I told Ohet about the parachute. I think about how, if he's incredibly unlucky, the metaphorical lines might entangle and choke him, and he could die wrapped in the very strings I told him not to cut. Because one thing you can't fight is fate. Try not to kill Ohet, he suggests helpfully. I'm going to keep searching and hope we can find the doll before it finds him. Age. Ohet sits zip-tied to the chair while I'm stationed at the desk, keeping watch on my laptop. The screen displays 4 camera views: bright red door, dusty cliffside road, patio with grill and fire pit, tin-roofed cottage perched on the edge of the sea. I've set up surveillance in case Lil BB defies expectations and comes skulking through the surf to sneak up on us, though I consider this the least likely scenario for our face-off with the killer doll. Ohet's last sighting of it was at 9 a.m., 9 days ago. Both of us stare at the clock on the wall in the final few seconds as the hands tick forward to 9 a.m., beginning his 10th day. I hit a countdown timer on Ohet's tablet. 24,000, Tina, 20,000, Tine 59, 20,000, Tine 59, 20,000, 5 byte 8s, etc. And we're off. Aches. Incidentally, by now, I absolutely should know where the doll is. I have all the information I need to figure out where it is hiding. I could blame a lot of things: sleep deprivation, the weird rockiness between me and Amy lately, fears for my future marriage, the fact Ohet is unequivocally my most annoying client, which sounds harsh unless you've spent the past 3 hours listening to his terrible startup ideas. Humans look for love on apps, so like, why not doggos? Puppy love was conceived to fill the dog dating app void. But the truth is, the person I am most annoyed with is myself. I'm missing something that I know in hindsight will be the kind of obvious. Like when you wonder where your sunglasses are and they're already on your face, throwing shade. I don't want Ohet to die. But I especially don't want him to die because I'm an idiot. Tai. 2 hours into Ohet's final day, and I really wish I'd swapped jobs with MM. She's much better at research than me, but she also has a higher tolerance for idiocy. I give her a ton of practice, whereas I, hypocritically, can't stand other people's dumbassery. Bro keeps inundating me with videos. He's got his phone in one hand, his wrists zip-tied to the arms of the chair, and he's casting to the TV. The latest vids are from a channel called John Drinks Water that somehow has more than 70,000 subscribers, and all I can do is marvel at how much money and resources and time have gone into microprocessing and near instantaneous satellite communications, all so we can watch an average Joe take gulps from water bottles. It's the most low-effort channel in existence. I am both gobsmacked at the insane popularity of John Drinks Water and deeply offended at the longevity of a series that spans over a decade from I-1 to T1 Furson 29. Just when I think we've reached the limit of human stupidity, Ohet asks, "Want to see what's even dumber?" And before I can refuse, he opens up reaction videos to John drinking water. We are now watching YouTubers watch John drink water. If I were God and I had made this world, this is the point at which I would flood it. Except then John would probably just make more videos, a lot of them, of him drinking all that water. Dude, I am so stiff. Can't you just like uncuff me for a second? Just let me walk around? Bro, I will give you $50 to uncuff me for 5 minutes. Bro, can you scratch my nose? It really fucking itches. How much time left? Dude, are those chips? Gimme. What? Of course I'm not gonna choke. Let me have one. I need my nose scratched again. If I can't eat, you can't eat. It's only fair if you're gonna make me suffer here. I won't pay a fucking cent if I gotta watch you eat. Put that shit away. 4 hours in, and where the fuck is little boy Blue? I needed to come and kill Ohet for me. S-Cake sees eggs. 6 hours in, and Ohet is now accusing me of torturing him. He is threatening to withhold payment unless I untie him so he can stretch. His life is maybe more important than my payment, so despite his threats, I continue to hold him against his will. Though with every passing moment, I am more ready to unlock the door, swing it wide open, and escort Lil BB in myself. In retaliation, Ohet introduces me to John drinks water popping 500 balloons. CHCH Ohet is now actively attempting to free himself while watching videos about how to escape a kidnapping situation. Just wait, he growls. As soon as I get out, I'm gonna take a piss. Then I'm gonna punch your fucking face in. His need to use the toilet and the stiffness of his ass from sitting in the chair have made him really ornery. He bends his head down to gnaw at the zip ties. Since he's already declared I'm going unpaid, I grab a bag of chips and toss them into my mouth like popcorn. ECZ, CZEZ, CZZZ, CZAZ, CZE, CZAZ, CZEZ, CZZ, CZZ. It's mid-afternoon, and I assume he's napping until I hear soft sniffling and realize, with some surprise, that he's probably crying. And suddenly he pipes up, "Hey, have you ever talked to ghosts?" My glazed eyes are staring at the outdoor surveillance cams. Nothing has moved except the sun and shadows. Once. It's pretty rare for them to talk. 'Cause like, I was thinking, sniffle. Like if hauntings are real, and if like spirits are real, then that means we must have souls, right? So like when I die, I'll see my dog. And suddenly I'm struck by what an asshole I am. Here I am, bemoaning this kid's tastes and his threats and his tantrums when it's all because he's scared as shit. Scared he's gonna die. Scared that I'm not taking this seriously. I've been so exasperated, treating him like a pain in my ass. But all his babbling about his startups isn't because he assumes his ideas are good. What he's really wondering is whether he'll live long enough to attempt to make them. And as stressful as his confinement is, not only is it 1,000,000 times worse for him than for me, but he's in so many ways still just a kid. A scared kid who just wants his dog. The dog that probably inspired his stupid app and fuck Meg. Look, Ohet, I tell him, I'm sorry, but your dog's gonna have to wait a little longer to see you. 'Cause you hired me so. Lil BB's not getting to you, okay? I promise. Yeah? You're that good, huh? The ghost of a smile. Yeah? I can't look him in the eye. Looking at him, it makes my heart race and my eyes burn. Makes the nausea clench my belly. I think it's the fear I might be lying about being able to save him. But you said you didn't know what makes it work. Nope. So what you're doing, all this torturing mech, basically, might cause me to die. I hate the chill that slinks up my spine when he says that. Maybe, I reluctantly admit. So you should let me have a chip. Dumbass kid. Nope. Japta-ass kid. Nope. And I'm about to be E-Team Lil BB. I made the mistake of letting Ohet use his phone, and now he's threatening to call the authorities if I don't untie him. This is fucking kidnapping, man. It's a crime you're holding me hostage against my will. Fuck you if you don't untie me. I'll call the cops and have you arrested. And I won't pay you. They'll throw you in fucking prison for this. Fuck this kid and his dead dog too. I untie him. HG, you did what? HG, you did what? Amy is livid on our video call. It's not his fault, I made him. Ohei announces from where he lounges on the bed, munching on chips and getting crumbs everywhere. He swallows and adds, I threatened to call the cops. Look, it's fine. I'm fine. It's probably all Via's prank. We'll just chill here for 16 more hours. It is not fine. Jack, you need to tie him up right now. Christ, I'm heading there. Hey, can you pick up a pizza on your way? I ask. I'll take a Supreme and a cheese, pipes up Ohet. Amy mouths at me to call her back privately. Amy mouths at me to call her back privately. Amy. I tell Ohet I gotta use the toilet and he has to be zip-tied while I'm in there. And he makes a face and mutters, Dude, how much coffee did you drink? Maybe you should wear the pad. Emmy is gonna have a lot of questions when she arrives to find this kid already dead. Anyway, I managed to get him back in the chair, Ohet tolerating the zip ties so long as I agreed to unbind him after, and I call Emmy back. Her nose wrinkles. You, are you on the toilet? Yes. Babe, just tell me what... Okay, listen. You have to keep Ohet tied up. I talked to Gatiasno's widow. His death wasn't an accident. Gatiasno N was the collector who procured Little Boy Blue and displayed it in his shop for years until he died in 2006 in a car wreck. Amy continues urgently. He's intentionally veered into oncoming traffic. I take a breath as I consider this. So Gatiasno got behind the wheel, presumably while carrying the doll, and caused his own crash. That fits my hypothesis of how Ohet removed Lil BB from its case under the haunting's influence. And looking back at the previous incidents, the fall from the ladder, the drowning from the pool, those deaths also fit the pattern of victims causing their own accidents. So as long as we don't allow Ohet to retrieve the doll and initiate his own death, he'll be safe. So we just keep him restrained until when? Chajak, how do we know when it'll stop? I can feel the migraine creeping behind my eyes as she leans in and says, There's only one way to guarantee he'll live. We need to find the doll. GGGGGGGG. Emmy will monitor Ohet while I go search his house. Or at least that's the plan. Until she arrives wreathed in the aroma of Italian herbs and greasy maz, and Ohet absolutely loses his shit. He demands to be released because he will literally die if he can't eat that pizza. So I snip the zip tie on one of his hands and tell Amy I'll stay until he's done eating. Midway into his second slice, Ohei demands to use the bathroom and claims refusing him violates international protocols. And I think, not this shit again. I'm getting a real sense of deja vu. Surprisingly, Amy agrees to let him use the facilities unsupervised. From inside, Ohet loudly complains, through the door kept ajar at my insistence, about how Emmy is so much nicer than I am. Good luck with this, I warn Emmy. When he emerges, he grabs a pizza box and plops onto the bed. You're going to have to get back in the chair, begins Emmy. Just let me eat. It's like torture, for real. My body needs a break. He glares as he bites into his pizza, and Emmy sighs and looks at me. And because I'm a genuinely bad person, I tell Ohet that Amy's never seen John drink water. Amy's all business though, cutting through the kid's bullshit and explaining that she's already searched the house, but wants me to go over each floor and the grounds again, focusing on my attunement to the paranormal. Only I'm not really listening. I'm watching Ohet gobble the pizza, grease dribbling from his lips. His fingers stuff the crust into his mouth, and then he grabs his soda, guzzles, sets it down, and wipes his hand on his shirt and grabs his phone and leaves oily prints. I feel nauseous, bad vibes oozing from the kid as he swims in my vision, and that same hand reaches for another slice. And suddenly I realize what I'm seeing. And I am such an idiot. Oh my God, such an idiot. I know how little boy Blue killed them. When Ohet closes the lid and sets the box aside, I tell him to sit in the chair. He frowns. What's the rush, bro? Just let me relax a little. Now, why? He snaps. Emmy intervenes, cajoling, like a teacher at an elementary school to a kid on the brink of a tantrum. But it's too late. Ohet's agitated, regardless of whether it's her or me telling him what to do. Why? Why is it so important I be tied up? He snaps, and I squint as the vertigo worsens, knowing it's already too late. So I just tell him what I should have figured out yesterday when we met for the first time. Ohet, what's in your hand? I say. Huh? He looks at his phone. This whole time, you've been eating with one hand, setting down the pizza and picking up your drink, setting down your drink and picking up your phone. In fact, you were doing that yesterday too, when you were swinging around the katana, a two-handed sword, but using only one hand. Why? What's in your other hand? His head cocks like a spaniel's, and he slowly turns from the greasy phone in his fingers to his other hand, held in a loose fist resting on his chest. Here's the thing about the paranormal. By definition, it doesn't belong in our world, so to influence material objects takes a lot of energy. To make the doll get up and run around, that would be an impossible feat for most ghosts. That's why it's so difficult to find physical proof, because the paranormal rarely impacts the physical world beyond flickering lights or the occasional temperature drop. In fact, the most common kind of paranormal influence is subpsychological, effects on perception, judgment, decisions. Like veering into traffic because you see yourself in the wrong lane. Like losing your balance on a ladder because you're suddenly struck by vertigo. Like stumbling into the pool because you think the surface is concrete. It can make you see something that's not there, see something that is there. That miasma of bad mojo around Ohet. I assumed what I was sensing was his impending doom. But Little Boy Blue's influence, though strongest on its victim, also influences everyone else in proximity. And so all of us, me, AME, Ohet, are not seeing the same thing. That's why my skin's been crawling so much, my eyes watering. Especially when I look at Ohet. Especially when I look at his closed hand. It's what the last lines of the rhyme have been telling us all along. Whence has he fled? They'll find him beside you. The reason everyone dies with the doll beside them is because they're carrying it, I say. They carry the doll for 10 days. Nobody sees. A camera would, and I'm kicking myself for aiming my surveillance cams outside instead of in here. On the 10th day, the doll's delusions kick into high gear and drive its owner to their death. I hold out a hand and step closer and say, "Give me the doll." Ohet just stares at me, green eyes going almost impossibly wide. And then he screams and, still holding his closed fist to his chest, he flings the pizza box at me. Calf. It's impossible to know what Ohit sees as he springs from the bed, glancing frantically between the door and window, looking like nothing so much as a panicking dog scrabbling for an exit. Ohit, stop. Stop moving, Amy shouts. But he doesn't hear her and we have no choice. We have to take him down. This is why I didn't want to untie him, not even for a moment. Not even for a moment, not even to use the bathroom. Because now we have a 6'2" hallucinating maniac who might bolt for the door, might bolt for the window, might even bolt straight for the wall and bash his brains out against the cinder block. Unless we stop him right here, his delusions will drive him to run off the cliff, or leap in front of a car or swan dive off the balcony. Emmy and I cannot let him leave. While Emmy keeps trying to talk him down, I raise my fists. But when I was around Ohet's age and still early in my transition, I didn't yet have the beard or the muscles or the chiseled abs. What I did have was a mouth that made very bad choices for my face. There was this one time in particular, I had the shit kicked out of me, so afterward, I found my way to an MMA gym. It was all dudes who'd been doing Taekwondo since they were toddlers. They told me they required some background in BJJ, Kung Fu, etc. So I explained my situation. That my parents never allowed me in martial arts, because it wasn't appropriate for a girl. So I'd never been taught to throw a punch, but was now getting quite the education in receiving them. Could they teach my fists to back up my mouth? The instructor sympathized. He was a gay Marine and understood what it meant to be targeted. He also warned me later, Bruce Lee couldn't back up your mouth. Maybe wise up and be less of a wise ass, huh? Long story short, I trained long enough to learn what I needed. So now, when a panicked Ohet takes a swing, I duck. He telegraphs his motion so clumsily it feels almost too easy to catch his arm on the next punch, twisting my back to him and dropping to throw him over my shoulder. Slamming on the floor knocks the wind from him. I bark at Amy, but she's already here, jerking and tugging at something in his fist, and Ohet rides while I pin him. There's the E-I-E of fabric, and suddenly Ohet goes limp. Emmy tumbles backwards. She scrabbles into the wall, and I swear I hear her skull ring as she hits it. Cursing, I yank a zip tie from my back pocket and bind Ohet's wrists together, while Emmy curls in a fetal position. Did I hurt her? He keeps asking. Did I hurt her? I scurry to Emmy, who whimpers like a whipped dog with her arms pinned against her chest. But Amy, brave, brilliant Amy, she twitches, shrieks, and hyperventilates, but she does not let the doll trick her into running. I retrieve a jackknife from my bag, then move behind her and wrap my arms around her almost as if in an embrace. I grab her forearms gently but firmly and tug. Amy resists. I have to grip her extremely hard to force her arms away from her body, and she cries out as I pin her beneath me, arms splayed out in front of her. I grab the jackknife and stab it into the spot where my vision wavers the most, right by her clenched fists. Emmy, or the doll, screams, and something squirms under the blade. It feels like I've impaled an animal, like something alive, flailing on the end of that knife, even though I know the sensation can't be real. And I lift the blade and it bucks and jerks in my grip. In my vision, the tip of the knife is swimming, and I glimpse flashes of a child, writhing as I rush to the fire pit outside to throw the whole squiggling and squirming mess in. I grab lighter fluid from beside the grill and pour it around the knife, and then I light it up. As the flames rise, I record the scene on my phone. Later, Amy and Ohet will both tell me the doll showed them the same thing, me attacking them. Likely because it wanted to neutralize me as a threat. Now, the sense of nausea churning in my belly gradually settles. The chill that was prickling my skin burns off in the sea breeze. My vision clears, and I see the flames devouring the doll, scraps of blue cloth turning to black, its tiny inked mouth widening and curling as the fire consumes the cloth and stuffing until there is nothing but ash. Ch. Gerst. We're celebrating. Ohet recounting the Lil BB story to his friends, showing off the glass case, the website and doll photos, even the pads. And after hours of accolades and cheers, man, it feels good. Afterwards, I go outside and light up a joint under the stars in the cliffside air, breathing the buzz into my lungs. I sit there a while and watch the scintillating sky and try to grasp at that elusive sensation, happiness. We've just ended a terrifying 100-year-old haunting. So why do I feel like a sour note? Probably because it would have been a lot less hassle if I'd just aimed a camera at the kid from the get-go. Frigging amateur hour. The door slides open behind me and Amy sidles next to me. Hey, I say, and offer her the joint, but she declines. And we just lean together in silence for a while, and eventually I ask her, hey, we good? Of course. Why do you ask? I don't know. You seem pretty annoyed at me during most of this trip. That's because you were being annoying. Okay. Well, before today too. I don't know how to say what I'm trying to say. She pulls away from me so she can study my face, and I tell her, it used to be easy to make you laugh. Babe, you still make me laugh. But, you know. And then she catches me off guard, in that blunt way this girl sometimes has that feels like a sucker punch when she says, the honeymoon phase doesn't last forever. And all I'm thinking is, she's past the honeymoon phase? We haven't even had our actual honeymoon. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised. She's been keeping count of how many days I leave my socks on the floor. Old bachelor habits die hard. Still, to hear her say it out loud pulls me up short, and Emmy must see that in my face because she launches into a lecture about love, about togetherness, about stable romance, whatever the fuck that means. Instead of infatuation and butterflies like on your first date, she says, like I'm the slowest student in her Intimacy 101 seminar, it's like dressing in pajamas instead of dressing up. Being comfortable, because you're with the person you ask every night, what do you want to do for dinner for the rest of your lives? I pretty much always let you pick, I say, partly because I'm still processing, but also MS the one with dietary restrictions. I add, usually after you present me with choices. But they're false choices because you secretly know which restaurant you want, and I have to guess, and if I guess wrong, then you suggest the other one, so we go to that one, and then I think, why not just tell me the one you want in the first place? Amy is glaring. Okay, fine, I do that, she admits. But you always say you don't care, but you secretly have preferences. Of course I have preferences. It's just, my biggest preference is that I get to eat with you, so. I shrug and pull her closer and add, that's what I want. You ask me what we do for dinner. You give me false choices. I tell you what I want, you choose anyway, and we go together. For the rest of our lives. Amy smacks my arm, but her eyes are shining, and she leans up and kisses me. Maybe I'm just not done chasing highs yet, but to me there's no star brighter than this girl in my arms. But for tonight, we've defeated a 100-year-old doll, everyone is alive, and we're riding high in victory. So at least for now, I guess, we can worry about forever another day. It ain't going nowhere. I don't know if it's such a good idea to write this here. By doing so, I'm actually breaking every confidentiality agreement I signed back in 1974. Lifetime confidentiality, no exceptions, no truths revealed later. So please forgive me if I can't go into as much detail as I'd like to. But maybe it's better this way. It's been a long time. I'm old now, and I've forgotten some things, but the things I saw never stopped living in my dreams. And maybe it's good for me to finally let it all go. If I stay silent, I'll die with them. I wasn't an astronaut, not a hero or anything to brag about to your kids. I was just a data analyst at NASA's Langley Research Center in Virginia, one of those who analyze images taken by others. Invisible, replaceable, perfect for making things disappear. My job was nothing special, but it paid quite well. Well enough to provide for my family. It began in 1971 with the first signal and the first anomaly we couldn't explain. As far as I know, we still can't. The orbiting Astronomical Observatory 2 sent us images from the constellation Lyra. The images were all relatively unspectacular, purely routine shots, calibration and tests for the Space Telescope. The images were always taken from the same location. So you can imagine the confusion when the images began to differ from one another. To be precise, it was the first image that showed something different. As you know, the constellation Lyra actually has 12 main stars that form its distinctive figure. But our first image showed 14 stars, which disappeared after the first image. Stars can't just vanish from the picture. Even when their lifetimes end, they explode in a supernova, which we would have seen if that had been the case. But they were simply gone, from one second to the next. At first, we dismissed it as a simple trick of the light, but that theory was quickly ruled out when we received similar images from an observatory in Australia. From then on, it was an unsolved mystery, until, a year later, a flying object emerged from the constellation Lyra. It was a supposed interstellar comet. At least, that is the classification the object received before it was finally classified as top secret. And NASA now rests on the claim that Oumuamua was supposedly the first interstellar comet to cross our solar system. But that is a lie. There is no public information about the comet in question from back then. And there is a reason for that. The object was unlike anything we had ever seen before. Any measurement of radiation levels was beyond good and evil. But that wasn't the strange part. It was the matter surrounding the object. Within a radius of about 15,200 miles around the object, a previously unknown matter altered reality. For comparison, the Earth's diameter is about 7,917 miles. It wasn't like a black hole, around which space and time curve, but the matter seemed to overwrite space and time and fundamentally alter them. But that wasn't the only thing. The comet itself had a peculiar physical composition, one we had seen only once before, in the asteroid responsible for the mass extinction of the dinosaurs. But to understand that, we need to take a detour to that asteroid, because there are many things here as well that have never been told to the public. For one thing, the impact itself was not at all responsible for the extinction of the dinosaurs. The asteroid was actually significantly smaller than people are led to believe today. In fact, it was only about 1,214 feet in size, which isn't even remotely enough to be a planet killer. That doesn't mean the asteroid wasn't responsible for the mass extinction, but the impact itself wasn't the reason. The question therefore arose, how could such a small asteroid cause a mass extinction? Don't get me wrong, the impact certainly had some minor effects, and some dinosaurs undoubtedly died as a direct result, but that doesn't explain a mass extinction. Instead, we had dinosaur bones and fossils analyzed and found signs of combat. Not necessarily from dinosaurs simply acting on instinct and hunting others, but in some cases, very unnatural signs of combat that show that even herbivores suddenly displayed increased aggression and began attacking each other indiscriminately. A total massacre with no evolutionary advantage. This raised even more questions for us. So with the help of geologists who provided some unreleased data, we investigated the Red Fort crater in South Africa for answers, where we discovered that the asteroid had completely peculiar physical properties at the time. Combining this with the flying object, we conducted studies and reconstructions and found that the unclassified matter observed in the flying object is also present here on Earth, and not exactly in small quantities. However, our research has shown that the sphere of influence of the matter is not constant, but varies in strength. And this is true even over longer periods of time. The strongest period likely occurred shortly after the impact on Earth, during which the matter was released and expanded its sphere of influence across the entire planet. We linked the sphere of influence of the matter to the increased aggression of the dinosaurs and attempted to analyze the periods of peak intensity of the matter over the last 100 years. Our calculations showed that there was only one period in which the matter had the strongest influence on Earth since the impact, specifically between 1905 and 1967, before it weakened again. This is precisely the period during which not only were the two greatest wars in human history fought, but the Cold War also began. I think you understand what I'm getting at. I wish I could tell you that we had solved the entire mystery by the time I left NASA, but I can't. And I can't help but imagine that these comets had their origins in something else, something we were only able to record once in 1971, before it vanished from the night sky. Something so evil that it sows discord with malicious intent. Something that is out there, something that we don't know, and something that probably knows we are here because it watched us.